I'm William Boylan. For half a century, I was pastor of the Byfield Parish Church. And during those years, I watched the Lord work wonders. He did what I asked him fundamentally to do. I asked him, if you're going to call me to be a pastor, please, during the ministry I have, show yourself so wonderful as you've shown yourself to me, and let people encounter the Byfield Parish Church in such a way that it leaves them with a good taste in their mouths. The scripture says that we can taste the goodness of the Lord, and he wants us to. Well, please, Lord, let it be so in this church. And I had an extraordinary experience. Let me share just the highlights with you. The first 7 years I was here, God chose to just take it over. I mean, he did works that you read about in the Bible. There were healings that were validated by the hospitals around. There was provision made, that he said, I will provide. After all, Jesus was crucified on the Mount of My Provision, where God had spared Abraham's son from being killed as a sacrifice. Well, God provided here way beyond our expectations. And then there were signs. There were signs galore, but some of those signs kind of worked their way through the history of the church during my 50 years. One of them was the relationship we had with the government of the country. Now, I'm not talking about being a politician or talking about political issues, because one of the things I asked for as I came as a pastor, first thing, please take the American flag out of the church. I'm an American, I served in the Army, I'm a patriot, but I did not want the grace of God to be confused with any particular country on the earth. And I felt that I wouldn't want somebody to come in from an enemy country and feel like we were enemies in the gospel we were proclaiming, because we were not. So we had signs galore, and therefore I say one of them was that we had a good kind of influence with the government. And in fact, Jimmy Carter's sister was with us at Byfield in 1972, and when she was about to go home, my wife said, "Oh, you're flying to Fayetteville tonight?" And she said, "Oh no, God has told my brother he's to be the next president of the United States." And sure enough, he became the president of the United States. We took that seriously and prayed for the nation, knowing that God answers prayer in so many ways. There was a second period that came along. That miraculous period never really ended, but it slowed down. And in the second period, we had a chance to speak to our denomination, because what was happening in the mainline denominations of the United States, no, really, in the world, was a retreat from the historic gospel message. The message of the gospel is this: Christ died on the cross for sinners, and everyone has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Therefore, we all need to hear the message of Christ. It's a necessity for salvation. And so in that second period, we challenged our own denomination to preach Christ, lift up the cross. He said, if I be lifted up from the earth, I will draw all men to myself. In the third period, which came about 1984, in the next 7 or so years, I received an invitation, but it was on behalf of the church, to come to briefings at the White House in Washington, and I was added to the State Department. And I picked that up because it seemed to be a kind of connecting tissue with the announcement that Jimmy Carter's sister Ruth made at the church here. And we thought a lot about that. We did not pretend to become counselors for our government or our governors, but we certainly did pray for them, and it was honoring to be able to hear what they wanted to tell the churches what their needs were, and this was during the Reagan administration. But in that time, we still experienced God's powerful work of healing. I got a call one day about a little girl who was born that night with spina bifida. And I was asked to go to the hospital to be with the family. I got to the Children's Hospital in Boston. The family, the parents had not come. The infant had been airlifted there for an operation in the afternoon. It was Christmas time. It was actually Christmas Eve, and the hospital was nearly empty of children. Well, the charge nurse took me into incubator with this little 8-hour-old girl with spina bifida, and she walked away. It never happened today, but it happened then, and I said to the Lord, would you, for a Christmas present to this little girl, take away the spina bifida? And I got a call in the afternoon, and the call came from the friend who'd asked me to see the family, and he said, "We won't believe this. They unwrapped the baby for the operation, there's no spina bifida." I saw that little girl play 2 years later, and she sure looks healthy to me. The experience went on in the same kind of vein, but the focus of necessity became a little bit different as the years went by. We grew enormously. By the next period in our life, we had to build a meeting house that cost us $2 million just to house the people on a Sunday morning, just to seat them, those that were coming to the church. And it was way out of bounds if you knew what was going on in the life of most churches. We were growing leaps and bounds. At the next period, I got even more opportunities to share the story of the church and to tell it in places that it could be of influence. And one of my joys, yes, but it was an honor, as I delivered a paper at Oxford University, or at Oxford, one of the colleges in England, on the Byfield Parish Church and the forming of the American mind. That was quite a privilege, and I pray that the Lord use that testimony in order to glorify Himself. During this, what I consider the last phase of my ministry in the pulpit, I received an invitation from the Massachusetts State House. They took the bull by the horns back a few years ago, and they put a nativity scene in the Hall of Flags. And I was very honored that they had asked me to be the presenter to bring the message at that time. Now, I have focused a lot on my ministry from the standpoint of my experience of it, but what really thrills me is the fact that what God did was not just use me as if the church supported me, it used the church and me to support the church. I was never the head of the Byfield Parish Church. Christ is the head of the church. I was in a leadership role, and my leadership role made me responsible to build the body, to grow the congregational church that we are into Christ-likeness. And you do that not by being a counselor necessarily or having a plan. You do it by presenting Christ. When He is presented, He can speak for Himself, and He will. And He changes people into His image. And when people taste and see that the Lord is good, it leaves a good taste in the mouth of the church and in the people who are in touch with the life of the Byfield Parish Church.